Francois Pienaar once said something that stuck with me, that the friendships you make in rugby matter far more than any trophy you ever lift. After everything he witnessed, everything he experienced, I believe him completely. Someone recently asked him a question he'd never been asked before. Not who were the greatest players you ever played with or against. That list would take days to debate. The question was simpler and somehow much harder. Which 5 rugby players do you actually love the most? Not respect, not admire, love. Franz sat with that question for a moment, and what came back to him wasn't statistics or match highlights. It was faces. The first name that came to mind was Joost van der Westhuizen. Anyone who watched Joost play remembers the electrifying speed, the bone-jarring tackles, the moments where he seemed to single-handedly drag a match in a different direction. But Franz doesn't think about any of that first. He thinks about the smile. No matter how brutal a training session had been, no matter how painful a loss felt, Joost had this rare ability to lift the mood in a room without even trying. He understood something many players never figure out, that if you carry every disappointment home with you, the weight of the game will eventually crush you. Being around him meant you always knew exactly where you stood. Honest, reliable, completely himself on a Monday, and still completely himself on match day. That consistency is what built real trust. Then there's Chester Williams. The world remembers what Chester symbolized for South Africa in 1995, and rightly so. But what Franz carries with him is quieter than that. Chester never needed to remind anyone how good he was. He simply showed up, did the work, and let his rugby speak. On long tours, when exhaustion set in and homesickness crept through the squad, Chester had a way of making people feel like they belonged. Not through grand gestures, but through small, genuine ones. Some teammates make you admire their talent. Chester made you genuinely enjoy coming to training. Jonah Lomu sits in that list too, and Franz is honest about why. Yes, the man was physically terrifying with a ball in hand. But what stayed with Franz long after the final whistle was how gentle Jonah was away from the field. Fame has a way of quietly changing people, often before they even notice. Jonah never seemed touched by it. He was warm, easy to talk to, completely without arrogance. And Franz believes that's actually harder to achieve than becoming world famous. Osdu Rant rounds out the group as the kind of man who never needed applause to keep working. After training ended and most players headed inside, Oz would still be out there. One more rep, one more conversation with a younger forward. Whenever pressure mounted and the changing room grew tense, people naturally looked toward Oz. Not because he spoke the loudest, but because his calmness settled everyone around him. And finally, Mark Andrews, dependable, committed, never needing recognition to give everything he had. In the big moments, when the changing room went quiet, and everyone was alone with their thoughts, seeing Mark's face across the room was enough. What Franz discovered over the years is that the matches fade, the scores blur, the jerseys get folded away. What remains are the people, the ordinary mornings, the long bus rides, the meals shared after hard days. The noise disappears, the friendships don't. If this kind of storytelling speaks to you, hit like and subscribe. There's plenty more where that came from.